Okay, so I'm re-recording my VOD review. It's gonna be over Mr. Savage's first place in the Monaco Cup. Basically, uh, my dog needed a lot of help last night. Like, needed to take care of him in the middle of a VOD review, and then the power went out, and so basically, I am now re-recording the VOD review. So if I'm gonna write up some notes in a Google Doc and I'm gonna put that in the description. But basically, the Monaco Cup is the only solo event to happen so far this season. Mr. Savage, of course, plays first in. He is one of the best solo players in the world. Probably always will be. And we're gonna go ahead and take a look at his qualifying and winning run. That skips later. So yeah, he basically, from what I can tell, he didn't have a drop spot. So like last night, in my VOD review, I had said that he lands here, and I had kind of gone through reasoning on why landing here is a bad idea for mid games, and you'll see why. I'll bring that up in a few minutes, when it's, I guess, relevant. But basically, he makes it to end game, game two. And he really abuses this meta, and it's very similar to World Cup meta of stay in your one box and then use your mobility. Stay in your one box, use your mobility. And then he's also really good at using the charged shotgun for picks on rotate, especially. So like you can see there, the thing a lot of people, weirdly enough, don't realize is you have to charge it. Like you can hit a pop shot for 60 or 90 with like um, pump like rate of fire, but like you know you still have to charge it if you want to actually get a kill. And again, I'm sorry for the ads. It's just he put a lot of ads on his video, so um, so yeah, really just like his whole endgame style is low ground, play backside of zone, and then use your mobility. And then once he runs out of mobility, you'll see in a second here what he does. But like play as if you have that mobility. See, the thing with Mr. Savage is ever since World Cup, he's kind of famous for like his 200 IQ plays come out of a shambles situation and finding picks and finding, the stuff he needs to keep playing and going. So like right here, this map refresh. Like personally, I would not have gone for that, but like right here, I would be trying to go up, as much as I can, basically. But he just kind of recognizes, okay, well, zone goes back, I need a tarp, so that I have something to play out of, because most likely zone's going to pull back in this area. And yeah, and again, really, a lot of his endgame style is just like sit in your box and then, use your mobility, and then go to low ground, and then sit in your box, use your mobility. And it's actually only when he tries to extend out and look for this pick that he gets screwed over in this game. So I've watched about 3/4 of this already, so I can kind of see the future here. But like right here, he just gets screwed over because he looked for a pick at the wrong time. So like that first time he didn't get punished, but like he gets punished a little bit later on, kind of because of his positioning. And then also he always goes for mats, like from like that body right there, for example. Like he'll see that, he sees the bandages, and he's like, okay, I have 2 chug splashes, I can get back to zone, I need mats, I'm going in zone. Even though zone pulls the totally opposite direction, like that's weirdly weird. It's a weird play, but like it worked, That's not to say it would have worked for just about anybody else, but it's Mr. Savage, right? So then just kind of he plays low ground really extensively. He basically almost never goes up, and he's really, I won't say bad, but he's not as skilled as he is. He isn't able to utilize like his best skills on any layer other than direct low ground. And like direct high ground as well, if he has an RPG. I think we see that in like game 5. So, right here, yeah, it's literally just like playing at a low ground. And the other thing is, is there's actually a lot to learn from metas like this one. So like World Cup meta, a lot of people didn't learn after that. They just assumed, oh, my mechanics are better, but no, because of server lag, like, you can't do all your creative warrior stuff in endgames until like 8th or 9th circle. So yeah, endgames really haven't advanced too far past World Cup stage, and then also they like people never learned from their World Cup mistakes. I feel like, it was like everybody was getting better at the game, blah 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 blah, but then like they just they just didn't learn. So like playing backside of zone, like I was saying, like it's just something that like Savage does that like lets him always get like top 10 when he goes into endgame and he plays like that exact style. Another thing I'm gonna say is like right here, he takes a lot of mid game fights unnecessarily. And especially in this meta where it's very much like a 50-50 in fighting. It's bad to land like the top left side of the map. And actually I'm gonna go to Loot Lake on this. If you look here, there's like, just in this area right here, there's so many places you can land, right? You have, this place, you have Lighthouse. You have here, you have here, you have here, you have like, there's probably like 8 to 10 spots that you can land between Stealthy, this castle, and Sweaty, and those are just like specific loot paths. That's not even saying that like someone wouldn't combine the two, and so basically if you land here, what Savage does is he likes to rotate. He noticed, pretty early on, since like DreamHack Anaheim, that if you land top left and then you just go to the top of the map, that's dead side. But what's not dead side, and this is something I actually go over, there's like a few zones on the map that like you should just always, always, always avoid. And I call them like just like bad zones. This is one of them. And so like in older seasons, right, before this part of the map changed, like this spot, this was like the biggest no-no zone ever. Like you just didn't go there, right? If you went there, you're gonna have to take a fight at some point. This is one of those spots. Is if you rotate through here, you're gonna take a fight. So like for Savage, what I would recommend is going bottom side. It's more congested, but you're gonna take less fights there overall. People feel free to fight on dead side, and technically they are free to because they're probably not gonna get third partied, but it's almost a guaranteed fight. So while there's more people on active side, you're going to have to take fights on dead side. Nobody's just gonna smart rotate away or something. Maybe Monaco Cup, but in solo cash cups, in even like solo FNCS opens and semis, nobody's gonna smart rotate away. Like what? No, they're taking that fight. So yeah, back to Savage. Going into this mid game, I'm not sure. I don't remember if this is the game where he gets like hard griefed. No, it's definitely not. So I remember this game, yeah. This game he plays like a quote-unquote higher level tarp-wise, and it gets him screwed over. And this is where you'll see, like, he doesn't have mobility, he doesn't have bouncers, shockwaves, anything that, like, he really needs or wants. And he also doesn't utilize fishing. That's something... Fishing is a massive part of this solo meta. But, like, here he's trying to play low ground in, like, a way too cheap way, in my opinion. Like, everybody sees that he's being cheap. And then, yeah. But here he just decides to go up. And this is actually something that I like. He's uncomfortable at this layer, but he recognizes, I need to heal. Like, I need to get out, but I need to heal first. And then he makes kind of a mistake of what layer he chooses here. If he had just gone up or played ultimate low instead of trying to jump in someone's tarp, which you'll see in like 10 seconds, he wouldn't die here. But because he tries to play a layer he isn't comfortable at, and because he tries to so the thing with Savage is he tried to play in this play that you'll see, instead of trying to play at a level that's going to be future low ground, he played at a level that was current low ground, plus if he had gone up layers, he would have been in a position to kill that guy from the back. And kind of my point about that is, let me pull up Epic Pen real quick. I haven't used that in a while. Alright, basically, I'm just gonna kind of draw here. So, I want you guys to imagine there's, a few layers to an endgame. We'll say that there's 4, okay? And then we'll say that pink is, that hill. Actually, wait. Gotta make it more of a gradual hill. Okay? So, basically you have these 4 layers, right? And so, everything in this zone, you can't go in, right? It's a hill. And so where Savage was here, and then he goes down a layer because that's where he's comfy at. And so he's playing for current low ground, not future low ground, right? He knows that in, 10 seconds, he's going to need to be up here. But he's like, oh, I'm low health, I can't go up, I'm not comfortable with that layer. So then it becomes a question of, do you play the layer that's optimal, or do you play the layer that you're comfortable with? And so, my answer to that is, in this meta, because the guns are so bad for fighting, odds are, if you're low health, you're going to lose that fight. And, of course, he loses it. He runs into this dude here. They fight, they're in zone. Of course they die. If he'd gone, I wouldn't say go up to this layer, right? That's a higher level than he should be at. But going to this layer, that gets him to future low ground. And that's the layer that he should have been comfortable at. So, if I were coaching Savage, I would say work on being comfortable at more layers than just the layer that you usually try to play. And that is, yeah. That's all I have to say. This is a really good example of that mid-game fight that I'm talking about. You're gonna see, I'm just gonna speed this up because this fight takes forever, and he loses it. And either way, he dies his own. I don't remember specifically if he loses or wins it, but he burns all of his mats, he burns all of his shields, all of his ammo, and at the end of this fight, if he wins, he's stuck in zone with no mats in, a decently stacked solo lobby, right? If he loses, he's dead. He doesn't get the kill points, he got grief just because he didn't rotate through a smart way. Off of his off-spawn route. Because really, you should be able to get to endgame every single game in custom tourneys if you don't die off spawn. You should. I'm not saying will, but I am saying should. As far as fighting goes, to describe how Savage is trying to play here, he's trying to play all angles, and in this meta, if you have attack, you need to play up close. If you have a charge, then yeah, play angles, but Savage is attack players, so you need to work on, full boxing him instead of playing out of a box and then trying to two-tack him. Also, he's not even baiting with his shield. Really common thing in box fights is baiting. You pull out a mini, you'll use it for half a second, and then you'll pre-fire. That's called a bait, right? He's not doing that here. He actually is trying to pop the shield. Which I really don't like. If he had baited it, he would have seen that guy was going to end it down on him, and he would have hit a shot. And that guy would have taken 50, 60 damage. Maybe even died, But now they're both 50-ish HP. That guy might have floppers. You really don't know what you're going into when you take this fight. And he's just styling on Savage here because he is out of builds now. And so yeah, Savage wins here, but he shouldn't have. Savage should not have won that. if that's anybody that I coach, heck, even if that's me, you have a blue tack, you have that amount of mats, you have that amount of shields, you're not baiting, you're not looking for pre-fires, you shouldn't win that. He wins that, that's savage. That's not like something you guys should try to replicate for sure. Sand rotates. Big thing this season in solos. Going back to Loot Lake. A solid 9th of the map is sand. Okay, like, just so you guys don't think I'm crazy here, I'm gonna. How do you clear? Okay, just so you guys don't think I'm crazy here. Okay, so a little bit more than a 9th. But basically, it's this much is sand, okay? And that means that you can get a free rotate through there if you play it at all smart. So, Savage, utilizing that here is beautiful. This pick, that guy definitely needs to work on spatial awareness. And actually, yeah, that's a point I need to touch on as far as why Savage is able to play endgames on low ground. Low ground is a place that's like, anybody can play low ground, right? It doesn't take a lot. It's a mad conservative play style. But to be good at low ground and to be able to play low ground and consistently get top 5, that's like where you're really skilled at it. Because if you can't consistently make top 5, that means you're playing a bad layer, right? So, and this is something I advise all of the kids that I coach, right? Is in games that you make it to endgame, if you are not beyond scuffed, getting lobby sprayed, etc., and you go into endgame with like 35 builds of each thing or something like around that number of builds, and you have decent amount of heals, you have decent amount of mobility, you're playing your layer as normal, and that's like your ideal game, and you don't make top 5 10 out of 10 games, you're doing something majorly wrong. So for Savage, the thing that makes it viable is like his spatial awareness. He thinks of himself like as kind of like the center of a Rubik's Cube, okay? And so whenever he has to move in any direction, he thinks of himself as moving through the Rubik's Cube. It's like, it's called cube thinking or something, I don't know. But it's a big thing, right? So there's like, you see the people that can like solve a Rubik's Cube in 5 seconds. It's because they think the exact same way Savage is thinking when he's low ground rotating. He knows exactly what builds are his, he knows where people are, and he's able to make those calm, I'm not going to say easy, but calm, skilled rotations just because he's thinking of it in the way that he is. So right here, he's saying, oh, okay, there's a whole nother layer opened up that I can access that's low ground, that's where I'm comfy at. I can go for these picks, I have 2 chug splashes, okay, I'm safe doing this. And so he just got a full mat refresh. So yeah, that's something that I'm going to add that you guys should start doing if you play low ground is look for full mat refreshes. And then also going up, like, he recognizes, I have 6 shockwaves, I have max mats from that refresh. Like, I can just go up and shockwave this kid off height. I guarantee you he's going to try and shockwave him. Yeah, exactly. Yep, and so now he has height, and like, yeah. Now it's literally just a shockwave battle. This is kind of hilarious. But I'm thinking that there's no chance that this guy's going to keep fighting it, right? This is a private tourney. Like, you're not that dumb? Yeah, okay. And then playing high ground. It's really easy to play if you have good spatial awareness. Taking it is what takes a significant amount of skill, especially from a low ground player. It's one of the reasons why Savage is like so amazing, is because he's able to take it. Now, keeping it here, I think this game is going to be an issue, because he has 2 kids that are contesting it and 7 builds, so even with his shockwaves, right, it's unlikely that he's going to be able to keep it. But there's a decent chance that, like, this guy who's below him is going to have respect for him since he did alpha him off height. Or he's going to die to the guy below him. Okay. Now right here, like, Savage's layer transitions are what makes... When they work, they really work, and when they don't, they just don't. Yeah. I mean, I don't think there's anything else to say. I didn't expect that he was going to go up for height, but that's playing, just like I was talking about earlier, instead of, like, playing the layer that he was quote-unquote comfortable with, he would have maybe gotten, like, top 3. He played the layer that was optimal. And he recognized that, and he did it successfully, and he didn't get scuffed by anything. And I think that's why he was able to win the game, is because he actually did that really well. And again, looking for these refreshes. I guess in solos this season, I haven't recognized this, but I guess it's a thing, where, like, there's just a lot of random refreshes that you can go for that are just kind of freely available. Nobody's really taking it, but, like, Savage goes for it. So yeah, if you play low ground or like a low to mid tarp, start looking for those. Could be a big thing. Spatial awareness here. Again, Savage is, yeah, I think this is kind of why he wins this tournament, is because he's recognizing, okay, I can go up layers and I'm playing for future low ground. So we're gonna call like game 3 a warm up game. For Savage's endgames, because endgames. Yeah, you warm your mechanics up every day, right? But you don't warm up your endgame sense, right? You guys go into scrims, you guys go into arena endgames, you guys go into basically anything, assuming that you're always going to be able to think at the same level with the same reaction speed and same mental agility as your hands do after warming up each day, without warming up. And so even pro players, that's why people VOD review, is because they, like, realize, oh, man, I need to warm up my brain to play scrims. So you kind of see that effect. Savage may have even been playing all day or something, right? But, like, I don't know, just warm up your brain, guys. It's not that hard. You spend 2 hours on your mechanics, just take, like, 30 minutes out of that, watch some pro gameplay, VOD review your arena games, see you while you died, endgame, somewhere, like, do that. It's worth doing. Yeah. Rant over. So he recognizes that guy has the RPG, he recognizes this guy's on a layer right below him. Boom, bada bing, bada boom, bada bang. Done deal. I'm kind of surprised he didn't say that chug splash for heal off, because nobody's going to contest this high ground here. I would have just charged ahead, dropped the chug and gone back in zone for big, but Savage, so he gets an excuse. So he recognizes that guy has an RPG, and he recognizes he has a crap ton of builds. This guy and him both have a lot of builds, I feel like. But that guy made a misplay, shockwaving. So, I don't know, the thing with Savage is he knows when to switch layers once he gets, like, his brain warmed up. He's switched layers really consistently to an optimal layer. Which I like a lot. He didn't do it in Game 3, that screwed him over. But he started doing it now. And another thing that I've seen, I think everybody's seen for a while, is he uses his brain more than his mechanics. His mechanics are, like, secondary to him, right? Like, he has good mechanics, always will, that's a high sense benefit, right? If you're high sense, you don't really need to worry about your mechanics that much. If you're low sense, then okay, yeah, you have to, like, kind of worry about what you're doing. But if you're high sense, like, you just get free mechanics, it's way easier to do everything. And so, for Savage, that's, like, a massive thing, is, like, yeah, he can do that. And then also I'm going to talk about rifts, because if you have fishing in your route, or you just randomly get rifts, then you're going to want to do this. Look for height, but don't always go for height. Get ahead of zone is your number one priority. If you start getting shot at, just dive. Again, most of you guys that watch my VOD reviews or play the game, have played since World Cup, you guys know the stuff. I didn't, so this has been new to me. My solo loot route, I use fishing a lot. I always have 2 rift fish going in endgame, so I actually did have to, like, kind of learn when to use those best. So just gonna kind of keep that in mind. Savage obviously knows that. I just kind of want to highlight that. And then yeah, he's only gone for height, not when it was optimal, not when he had a rift, but when he had the mats too. I don't know what he's thinking here. Yeah, that was just a badly It's just a badly done thing. But that's also the danger of using your brain too much. Is if you stop thinking about your mechanics, like sometimes, yeah, they can get unwarmed up as well. And stuff like that happens. And it may seem like I'm talking about this circumstantially, just because, oh, it's Mr. Savage, he's in the middle of a tournament, like, stuff happens, like, it's RNG, man, like, no, it's not. That's, like, genuinely what happens. And it happens, like, people complain about their consistency. Oh, man, I don't feel consistent enough when I play. Okay, well, are you warming up? Yeah, I'm warming up, okay, yeah. Alright, are you eating and drinking at a consistent rate while you're playing? Every single day? Well, not really. Okay, well, there's problem number one. You know, you have energy issues. Are you using energy drinks? Well, yeah, of course I am, you know. How else would you play this game? Okay, well, those wear off at a certain point in time. So, you know, drink it slower, make it last longer. Okay, well, then you have energy bursts. So many things can cause problems like that. And then there's also just mentality struggles of, like, you lose one game and then you flip out. You know, you have to, like, not let that affect how you play your game. Because otherwise you're going to over-focus on one aspect or another. And then you also have to, like, when you're playing tournaments especially, not focus on changing up what you do. Okay, tournaments, I always say this is kind of a philosophy. They're showing off what you've practiced, right? They're showing off how well you've practiced. They're showing off everything about your gameplay. And that even extends to stuff like solo cash cups. You know, they're not known for being super competitive events, but, like, for real, if you play arena all day, every day, you know, you don't want to play open scrims, you're above that, you know, but you can't make it into challengers because you don't have a trio, blah, blah, blah. And you literally just play creative in arena all day. You should play some solo cash cups. But you don't. Why? Because you think of it as something different than just putting your skills to use. That's a massive mentality thing. And that's not related to Mr. Savage, but I hate when people ask me to coach them and they're like, well, I'm so good when I'm practicing or so good whenever I'm doing anything. And then I go to play a tournament and I flip out and blah, blah. Dude, that's your issue. You know, it's not, you don't need to pay me $90 to coach you for a cash cup. Like, you can learn that just by watching, you know, the end of this video. All of these things define your consistency in game. They define how you play your end games, how you play your mid games, how you play your early games. If you're a consistent player, you can have the exact same game, no matter the zones, no matter the whatever, every single game of a tournament, especially if your drop spot's in a good location, you get mobility, you get it, you know, all that stuff, and you know how to rotate. Because of that fluctuation, you know, you're going to have off games like Savage. He still wins the tournament, right? Because everybody else is dealing with that same constant flux. And they deal with it less well than Savage does. He won 3 out of 6 games. Dead off spawn 1 game, dead mid game, the third game. And then second game, yeah. And then he just died, like, early end game in game 5. But, like, that everybody else deals with that flux. So Savage wins because he controlled that flux the best. He kept himself in check, and he was still able to, you know, do his thing, even though he was a little bit off. But for really for all the people watching this, right, that aren't pro top-of-the-top players, if you have that same issue, it's going to be 10 times worse for you. And that's going to probably end with your whole tournament getting thrown because you're focusing way too much on one issue, and then you're trying to change up your game mid-tournament. Overall for Savage, stuff you can pull out of his VOD review, playing low ground and looking for mats, right? That's a big thing that he does, and that kind of gives him distance in any games. Then there's cubic thinking, right? Think of yourself as the center of a Rubik's Cube. You can move in any of those directions, and you're just trying to, you know, advance to the next zone, right? That's how you should think of it. Third thing is taking height when you are ready to, not when height is ready to be taken. I touched on this a little bit badly. Rifts, you know, they're a big way to take height this season. Don't always take height out of Rift, though. Other thing, take height when you're ready to take height. Don't just take height because, oh, it's open. Right. Mobility, This really was a big thing in his first couple of games, but playing out of one box, sitting back zone, and then using your mobility to get ahead. It's been a thing since World Cup. Nobody really used it except for Booga, and you saw what happened with Booga in World Cup, right? Everybody started using it, and then everybody forgot about it in team modes, and then, for solos, for stuff like this, right? It's honestly the meta, because we have shockwaves, we have Riftfish, we have bouncers. That's all stuff where you can just sit in a box, wait to use it, and then get ahead. Overall, that's all I can think of. I'm going to be putting my notes in the description. Should be a Google Doc. If you have any issues, just message me on Twitter. It might be like private or something because of my Google Doc settings. And yeah, overall, this has been a review of Mr. Savage. And have a good day, guys.